We call you to move your focus into yourself. We call you to feel it, to forgive sitting in your head and pretending that you're in center, to feel that pull of spirit, that magnificent magnetic attraction that draws you into your own personal universe. That space within you that is absolutely comparable to the space outside. So the universe that you know of, that which you can see parts with your eyes, with the telescope, that you have been shown. But now, to move deeper into yourself, to feel the difference between pretense and imagination. Pretense is a tool of illusion. Let's pretend that we can do this. Let's pretend that that really exists. Imagination is the feminine principle of creation. Powerful, expansive, unlimited. And as you connect with that heart, soul center, with that seed of the divine that exists energetically in your world, to open yourself to the potential of experiencing the more. The illusion has limits, walls, barriers, rules, laws. You cannot do that. You cannot go there. What makes you think you are capable of creating more? Because as you realize, as you recognize within yourself, there is always more. If you come to a point at any place in your life where you feel that is all, I've gone as far as I can. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to experience, nothing more to accomplish. There's a very good possibility that you are standing right on the brink of another level of more. Unlimited possibilities unmeasured potential to allow in your life all that you desire. Operative word being allow. If you try to reach the more, you encounter the barriers, both visible and invisible, both mental and emotional as well as physical, that say you're small, you're unworthy, you're incapable, and that's all there is. And unfortunately, as the illusion is breaking up, humanity is beginning to feel exposed. All of the narrow pathways that you've been told are the only place you can go are beginning to broaden out. All of the hiding places are being illuminated. All of the fears, the doubts, the disbelief, as well, beloved masters, as the belief, are all being exposed, highlighted, brought to the fore, so that you see more than you could see before. And in this centered place within you, you began to feel a difference. And it is different. Encounters with love within you. Remember, I said, don't sit in your head and pretend to connect with yourself, because you don't connect with yourself intellectually. The mind in the illusion has been the creator, the perpetrator of separation, of loneliness. You may feel love within yourself. You may feel love for another. But do you feel that love you feel within yourself for yourself? The marriage of higher self and personal self. Which opens gateways into realms, into dimensions that have always been there and available. But as you allow the love to blend, to bond, to embrace, to enlighten, to inform, to expand, you began to touch, to feel to experience in your daily affairs, the more. More than you were willing to accept could possibly exist. More than you have been allowed to believe. And when you feel the fear, the doubt of the ego mind pressuring you to close those doors to unlimited potential, to mistrust the more, rather than giving your power away to your intellectual, logical, practical mind that focuses and functions in the limits of illusion, to allow your spirit, that which is the key to the greater you, to the greater self, to the masterful being that you were created. Feel it. Just sit with it. Relax into it. In this energy, for this time, it isn't about trying to make something up. It isn't about pretending to have a vision. It isn't about forcing yourself to see or to hear beyond what you have seen and heard before, because force has absolutely no place in the spiritual realms. Allowing yourself to sit quietly, embraced, imbued, surrounded in that love without any condition, which sets no limitations on how much more your wizardry, your magic, your spiritual mastery. And I say these words, and they are not separate, beloved masters. They are not definitions of darkness. They are references to the accessibility of life force empowerment that has been hidden all through the eons of time of separation, of the illusion. So, imagination takes you to a place within yourself where you can feel how it is energetically to walk on the moon. Not how science told you. Not what the astronauts showed you. Feel within yourself your own personal, allowable, a scope of experience that brings protection. It brings the unlimited power of your mastery into play, and feel open your inner eyes and see. Listen with your inner ears to such quiet as you sit on the moon, as you walk in one of the craters, as you stroll across the surface. And we use the word stroll. If you are on the moon, it's a bunny hop. And it takes time and time to get the feel of just how much energy you will put into each hop step that you take. And you may take some time to practice seeing, feeling, experiencing yourself on the moon. The absolute power and glory of looking back at the earth, to see the earth rising while you're on the moon, to move your position to the dark side of the moon and look out into virtually unimaginable, unlimited space. With stars and planets and asteroids and all manner of heavenly bodies moving and experience that vastness in you. In your energy field, in your realm of influence. And to know that what you are seeing from the moon is only a tiny, tiny, almost minuscule part of a galaxy. Not even a universe, a galaxy. And there are many galaxies in the universe that you would now call your home universe. The space that begins to help you understand that the perceptions of humans are stringently limited. The idea that if you walk in human form, that you are the only ones, that this is the only inhabited planet, and the scientific theories and quantum speculations are the only possibilities. But as you move beyond the limits of your pretense and open yourself to the unlimited flow of imaging, imagining, and you just give yourself permission to have that experience of being unlimited. It becomes more familiar as you participate in unlimitedness, and it becomes easier and easier for you to expand. Expand in your sacred space, unlimited connectivity to yourself, to creation, to all of creation, to forgive the idea that you cannot understand other people, other beings, and to allow yourself to perceive beyond the limitations of language, which in the illusion have been created to prevent invasion. People get together and they speak, quote unquote, their own language before people that don't speak that language. And they feel that they have privilege to say anything that they please because they're speaking before those who don't understand. The more that you open to the more, the less the fear of someone knowing what you are about is there. Because as you connect within yourself, as you remember your connection to the divine, as you begin to actually pull up bits of memory from your DNA of the part that you played, dearly beloved, divine, creative magicians, the part you played in creation. God created And God created co-creators. And those co-creators co-created other co-creators. But it doesn't get smaller and weaker and less important because your generations from the original creation, because the intensity, the inventiveness, the magic, the imagery, the virtues, all the elements of original creation have been placed in the co-creators, who in love shared the creation. And only when there came this game of separation did people begin to fear sharing. And the scope of possibility began to narrow. And the clarity of vision that could allow you to see within yourself the connection to the divine, to feel, to experience within yourself your co-creatorship with I am. And creation, the divine spark, has been given 1,000 names. And yet, it is all one. And when you forgive the fear of accepting that you are a part of the one, that you are integrally involved in all of creation, that doesn't just mean other humanoids. That means the animals that roam the face of the earth, the fish that swim in the sea, the birds that fly in the air, those that live in caves, and those that live in trees. You are divinely connected to all of them. And wherever you feel within yourself some sense of reticence or resistance or judgment that would prevent you from accepting, allowing, experiencing that oneness, then it is, beloved masters, that is as far as you can go into the more until you are willing to take another step. Integrate more deeply. To hold your space in love, and yet be willing to share the love, because as you share it, it returns to you magnified. More. So, the logical, practical mind says, let's get some definition here. Put this in a box for me, because my mind only operates in boxes. So if you're talking about all of this airy-fairy, disconnected, it isn't, moreness, light years and quantum physics, I don't want to hear anything about that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And the ego mind is basically turning the thumb screws of prevention of expansion and threatening punishment if you get too big. So, dearly beloved masters, we'll talk about money. Everyone wants to talk about money. And the ego questions start to roll. Why don't I have it? How do I get it? And when? The universe does not play let's make a deal. So all of the promises of how good you're going to be and what you'll do to get what you want, all of the pretenses of the mind, of promises to get what I want. God, I'll be so good if you will just give me fill in the blanks. And it all focuses outside of you, out into a world filled with chaos, filled with the feeling of not enough space to move or breathe, a world filled with danger, a world filled with the unexpected. And that's what life is, beloved masters. But as you connect with the more, there are things that belong to you, tools, wisdom, understanding, allowables, that open the way so that living in a physical body with a logical mind, and in these times often a very erratic emotional nature, you can still begin to experience glimpses, feelings, openings to the more. To allow yourself to feel success. And the logical, practical mind, with its penchant for limitations, says, how can I imagine success when I haven't had it? And if you are in any manner suggesting that that might be true for you, then it is beyond time to change your focus on your life, to see yourselves differently, to step out of the box of limitations that you've lived in for lifetimes. Walk to the edge of your comfort zone and stretch. And the lights go on. And rather than only seeing one step in front of you, you see some distance. And it's up to you, beloved masters, to create what you see. It's within your realm of capability to design where you're going. And some people are simply so adept at creating negative scenarios that every time there is an opening for a new movement forward, they design something worse, or potentially worse than it was before. It may never happen, and they can live in the hell of what if. But that's how they choose to use their connection to more, to create bigger, more powerful limitations. Smaller, darker, more confined spaces. So the universe doesn't make a deal. It says, demonstrate faith. Prove to yourself that you believe. This isn't about anyone else. The more belongs to you. This is very personal. Intimately personal. And yet, as you understand it, appreciate it, accept it, live it, the more that you allow yourself to experience begins to have a dynamic influence on the whole. A law that humanity does not whisper about. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, everything. This isn't about only my good stuff they can know. It isn't about I never do anything bad. Anything that you choose to empower in your space influences the whole. And they, all of them, every single one, influence you. So when someone says, "What can I do for the world?" be very clear. To be honest, to be clear, to be focused on the things that not only you desire for yourself, but the good for others. So, money is a symbol. It has been gold and silver. It has been precious gems. It has been minerals, shells, salt, wood, whatever the current element that is in the greatest demand. So, money is something that each person gets to make choices about. And in the illusion, the choices are the teachings of what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what you should do, what you can't do, what you must do, how much you can have. And when do you shut the flow off because you've got as much as you deserve? And it's all control games of the logical, practical mind. And the rules change just like a game of poker. People will fear the magic because they think it's uncontrollable, and yet it requires powerful discipline to utilize it well. Control can cause the magic to misfire. People will want the more and want it all. You couldn't imagine it all. You couldn't take it all in. You wouldn't know what to do with it all. And because of the threefold return of hoarding, whatever you put out or don't will return to you threefold, and quite frequently karmically even greater. The refusal to let go begins to dam the flow. So those who believe they need more and more and more money, and they don't know what they're going to do with it, and they don't even know what they've got, and it soon ceases to have anything to do with money and begins to be purely about power. And yet, the power of illusion is small, oftentimes pathetic in comparison to the power of the mastery that each being carries. Being, not just human being. There are wizards and magicians in the animal kingdom, under the sea, in the air, and each being has a choice of how they will utilize power. So money really, beloved masters, doesn't make you powerful. And when having large amounts of money leads to abuse of the power, then even though many people wouldn't call those abusers of power black magicians, in all honesty, they are, because they are abusing power. And power is a neutral force, God's creation, and there's plenty. Granting yourself permission to be powerful, to feel it. It empowers your imagination. It fires your creative potential. It expands your capability. It reinforces your worthiness. It shores up your value. And those are the things that allow you to not only magnetically attract money, power, energy, creativity into your life, but to appreciate it rather than fear it, to keep creating rather than only go so far and then stop because I'm not sure now that I have a right to any more than this. Some people have a set amount. I want $1 million. And because bringing yourself to a point of allowing and acceptance takes time, because in these times, as you are building the foundations within you, reinforcing what's always been there, you're also releasing the old energies that disempowered. And the ego mind still wants to sort and control and do battle where it believes there's not enough, and quite frequently throw potentially positive things away because in this moment the mind says, I can't see any use for this. It isn't about hoarding. It is about paying attention to potential and value. in order to prosper, whether it's financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, in relationship, in well-being, in order to prosper, there is that constant requirement of enforcing and reinforcing your selfhood. And you've been told not to. You've been told that that's wrong and bad. You have been told that you shouldn't speak well of yourself, think well of yourself. You let others do that. So the planet in the illusion has disintegrated to a bunch of beggars, attempting to get other people to tell them that they're wonderful, that they deserve, to give them what they don't have. And yet the lack of belief that even that part would be good enough, is something that gets thrown aside by logic and practicality, which really have no clear understanding of how to expand beyond a certain point or in a certain way. So there are those who have simply decided to disregard any of the spiritual laws that would govern allowing prosperity, and just take any and all things they can get. And there are those who overcompensate the other way by denying themselves any pleasure or joy or expansion in life because the physical life is so disgusting. And yet deep within there is a longing to belong. No matter which end of the spectrum the entity is on. And yet the ability to belong only comes from within you, and how much more you are willing to allow. And the rules and the laws that have bound you into limitation get to be forgiven, get to be released. And the more that you connect within yourself to how much there is available, the quieter, more confident, safer you can be, because you realize that every requirement can and will be met if you're willing to allow it. It may not be met the way you thought it should, and it may not be met the way you wanted it to, but it will be met, and it will be met well, and it will be increased. Plenty more where that came from. To allow yourself to feel completely connected into energy that has unlimited potential. It isn't about talking about how great things could be, will be someday out there, and keep pushing the good, the more, down the road in front of you. Talking is a great way to weaken the energy of creation. To have a great idea and to tell everyone about it. To go into great detail until you began to feel exhausted telling the story again one more time. You get tired of talking about it, and soon you just throw the whole dream away. Rather than focusing on the manifestation of the dream, of paying attention to who I will share with and who I will not. And that isn't a fear-based thing. It's actually an intuitional thing, which conserves on power, where the logical, practical mind just wants to talk, to get attention, to talk, to prove it's greater, better, smarter. But when there is a fear base in the energy, when there is neediness in the energy, then, beloved masters, it is exhausting to keep up that level of intensity when it isn't actually creating anything. It's just smoke and shadows of the arrogance of the ego mind. But when you feel in touch with energy that is so much greater than you, and it doesn't have to be analyzed. Feel it. If you can feel that space, it belongs to you. And when I say it belongs to you, this isn't about a war over real estate. This is about the value of personal space, which is interdependent with other masters. And the more you live well, the sacred art of life, the more you can have, the more you can imagine, the more you can accept, the more you will allow, the safer you feel, because in the more that fear that someone is going to come along and take your good away simply begins to evaporate in higher dimensional frequency, because what is yours belongs to you, and what is theirs belongs to them. And honestly, no one can take something from you unless you doubt that it's yours, doubt that you deserve it, or simply discount it as unimportant. So, if someone steals, and certainly there is theft everywhere in these times, and the ego mind is bloated with its brilliance at being able to pull off bigger, better, more outrageous theft. And I keep mentioning the threefold return. Whatever you put out, positive or negative, the threefold law is what you give returns to you magnified threefold. So, even though thieves may believe that they're getting away with it, the balances come very often by karma simply removing from the life of the thief the thing that is really the most valuable to them. And the ego mind doesn't want to consider that. The ego mind doesn't want to think about balance. It will think about retribution and punishment. It will think about doing great harm to someone who has done something to me. But it doesn't want to consider that wherever there is abuse and whomever is abusing, there will be balance. You notice I don't say punishment. It is the choice of the individual to either honestly accept, I set this in motion. I didn't know what the outcome would be, but I recognize it. Or the individual can point at everyone else. It's their fault. I didn't do anything. But there's always those three fingers pointing back. There is always that threefold return, that balance of what you put out returning to you. So, merchants, people in the marketplace in any manner always have a choice to be honest, to be faithful to themselves, and to be open to allow the abundance to return to them magnified, not because they're just being such a good person, because if you don't mean it, magic cannot live in an unwilling heart. And more is not accessible by those who think the rules weren't made for them. I'll just go take the more. You won't be able to find it. You may carry within you the seeds of it. You may have memories of it. But if your determination is to get to the more and take the more and ha ha ha, no one else will get any more, spiritual law simply closes the gates. The way isn't open. It isn't bad person, good person. It's energetic signature. The ill-intended carry a signature. It's, in many ways, like a reverse activation key. It closes the doors rather than opening them. And we keep emphasizing honesty. Honesty is not brutal, scathing remarks made to someone else about what's wrong with them or how they need to change. That isn't honesty. That is cruelty. It may be draped in a sheepskin to look pure as the driven snow, but that energy signature of abuse of power is beginning to show up all over the planet. Those who agree that the abuse of power is appropriate are using the same key as those who are actually doing the abusing. So it is not, beloved masters, how much money you have, but how you allow yourself to be well cared for. Billions of dollars don't bring happiness. They don't bring well-being. They don't bring satisfaction. They don't bring stability. But plenty. A life well lived in joy and love, and that feeling of open receptivity that allows synchronistic activity in the life. Opening your bank account and finding out that there's money in the bank account that you have no idea where it came from. And you call the bank and you say, where did this money come from? And they trace it. It's in your account. They may have no more idea how it got into your account, but they cannot find any reason it should not be there. Someone coming to you and saying, I feel well today, I feel prosperous. And you have brought good things into my life. And they tithe. And the joy, dearly beloved masters, of tithing to those who bring joy into your life, who inspire, who support, who uplift. And it isn't just, I'll give a tithe, and then that door is closed and I've lost that money. Any exchange that you have with money, bless it 1,000-fold. Bless it 1,000-fold. And examine your levels of trust around that. How often does the logical, practical mind say, I don't believe in 1,000-fold return. How ridiculous. Let's get real. 1,000-fold return is real. Dead-ending yourself with limitations is illusion. Because 1,000-fold return is the unlimited possibility of more. Of more. A universe of potential, of good ideas, of more ability to allow more. More joy, more fun, more favor. It is more, much more. And it exists within you. More, much more. And the only reason that you can't experience it is because you're still clinging to the limitations of the illusion, and they're breaking down under you. They're falling all around you. There is no reason to cling to them. And you are consistently being uplifted, held up, allowed to come up over those things that have limited you for so long. It's learning to trust what you haven't allowed for so long, and to forgive what really has never served you. But has led you further and further and further away from the more. If you attempt to follow words that I say intellectually, if you attempt to think about it, a lot of times it won't make any sense. And what you may hear is all your logical, practical mind will allow you, and the logical, practical mind says, the Master never says anything new. He just says the same thing again and again, because that is all your grasp of the illusion will allow you. The more you focus on more, the more you feel the expansion of your selfhood to fill its own true spaces. The less limitation you will be satisfied with in your life. It isn't about making war with others, about your right to do what you want to do. It's about getting very clear within yourself. Is this really what I desire to accomplish? Or is it simply a rebellion against the restrictions that I've known for so long? And rebellion is not a ticket to more. The willingness to go beyond the limits, totally different use of energy. Anger, frustration, fear, war, arguments, conflicts, and the joy of keeping something going all of the time. The egoic delight of keeping people off balance. The ego operates in confusion. So, to keep people off balance. But your focus always has to be on keeping people off balance, which doesn't give you a great deal of time to focus on finding your own stability within. As a man thinketh in his heart, the heart that's an emotional center, not the heart that's necessarily about love, but the heart that's connected to the emotional reactivation of the ego mind. As a man thinketh, so is he. As a woman, as a child, thinketh. So goes the life. So goes the life. How long has it been, dearly beloved masters, since you have done a reality check on your focus around money? Or are you still living by the same limited standards that you were taught as a child? Are you still operating in that very small space that adults will grant a child. A lot of times, parents will give a child a little bit of money, and then they will find some way to get it back. I'll give you this money, but you've got to give it to the church. I'll give you this money, but you have to pay for your food at school. I'll give you this money, and I'll create an illusion that you're really benefiting. But the adults desire to shift some of the burden of responsibility off themselves influences the whole, influences the child, which influences the adult the child will become. Are you still operating under the limited standards that your parents would allow you as a child? Are you still running up against the walls of rejection, of dismissal, that you experienced as a child, as a young adult? Are you still rebelling against authority? Are you still fighting with the shadows of some event that happened a long time ago that made you feel unworthy, and you've never forgiven it? All of that negative focus prevents you from experiencing not just a thought of more, because a thought of more can be stopped immediately. Someone out there, where the illusion checks people and prevents them from expanding, someone will say something that will ring a bell of some old limiting experience and stop you. And yet, everything that is happening on the planet now, no matter what it looks like, is actually moving toward the potential for all to accept the more, to forgive the small, the petty, the illegal, the immoral, the gloating over the brilliance of the mind that can take advantage of other people, the theft, whether it's breaking into someone's business or their home, or whether it is stealing their personal worth and value by constantly reinforcing you're not worth it. And how do you steal from yourself? By reinforcing old laws of unworthiness, of shame, of guilt, and wanting to fight about it and prove that you're better than that, which takes all of your energy, so that focusing on the more seems like too much trouble. And certainly your ego mind will tell you it is a waste of time. You have all the time there isn't. So time really isn't an issue unless you choose to make it one. So, in the more you began to understand, timing is everything. It isn't when you say it's time. It isn't when your ego says it's time. It is how the energy of creation functions with the signatures of your mastery. How do you use your energy? When you create a spell, you are weaving words, energy, together. Words in and of themselves are like energy. They can be neutral, they can be misunderstood, they can be misconstrued, but there is so much power in words when you weave power into your spell. If you just say some words, I was told to say these words will bring me what I want. I will read the words and I will say them, and I should get what I want. And beloved masters, you could say, well, that's an exaggeration. However, a lot of people feel exactly like those words sounded when they go to say a spell because they don't trust it, because they're afraid of it. And it is, beloved masters, to get honest in yourself. How afraid are you of success? People say they fear failure. You're not afraid of failure. It's an old familiar devil. You've done it well through many lifetimes in the illusion. But success, that is a vast, awesome, beloved unknown. Until you are willing to grant yourself permission not only to have the experience, but to live it in an ongoing way. Being willing to create energetic experiences in your life that help you feel more connected to the more. Some of you may say, what is the master throwing his hand out that way for? On the wall in this home, there is a photograph, actually a series of photographs from the Hubble space camera. And it is this picture that fits on a wall, spans 50 light years. It's not a lot of more, but it is a lot more than most people would even consider. And it is a phenomenal reminder that you cannot ever potentially grasp all, because 50 light years is minimal. 1,000,000 light years, it goes away. But to grasp the spaces in a galaxy and to comprehend energetically the space in a universe, and you couldn't possibly utilize that much energy. You don't need it, because you wouldn't put it to any valuable, viable use. And when energy is held and dammed rather than allowing it to flow, it becomes stagnant and it begins to die. So someone may be pushing billions of dollars around on the computers, paper trails, but it doesn't have any backing unless they can conceive of it and utilize it. So, how much do you fear success? What would happen if you succeed? Somewhere in each one, there have been seeds planted, bitter seeds, that suggest that you cannot succeed. And it may be that you don't want to make someone else look bad. Multitudinous women on the earth have held themselves back so that they would not damage the fragile ego of the men in their lives. And men have very often encouraged their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their mothers to hold back, because men do not like women who are smarter than they are. And success is not a competition with anyone but self. It is not a competition with anyone but self, because you are the only one that you can really honestly compete with, because there's not another one like you. So you could compete with others, but it probably wouldn't be altogether satisfactory. And competition, for many people, actually distracts them from success, from prosperity. They get caught up in the numbers, the percentages, the grade. And yet there are geniuses that didn't do well according to ordinary sociological measures. So it takes courage to live the more. Strength. It takes a recognition of your power. And then owning it. And then living it. And living your power isn't about being the center of attention or showing off for others. Living your power is a deep-seated, warm confidence. I am that I am. I am connected to the One. I am empowered by the One. I am expanded and multiplied and supported by the One. And I have no necessity to stand alone, because of the power of the One. In order to have the more, you are required to share. Interdependence. The mystery of the magic, which really isn't such a mystery after all, is being so clearly confident within self that you can share without feeling others are going to take something from you. And it also opens the more within you to recognize the power of sharing. Love gives and receives. But it isn't by the rules, regulations, judgment, and determination of logic and practicality. It is from the sweet flow of unconditional love that comes from Source, feeds you, fills you up, empowers the whole, returns to Source, and is poured out again, magnified. There's always more. And the logical, practical mind will walk along looking down at the ground, because there is such a fear of looking up into the sky, into the universe, and having that vast expanse within activated by the recognition as above, so below, as without, so within. So, dearly beloved masters, we started by calling you to connect with yourself, to forgive, going immediately to your logical mind, and allowing your brain to start pretending that it already knows what's going to be said, that there is the pretense that I created a meditation that was more powerful than the one that was being led. And so, you certainly can, you're quite competent, you're very capable, but it is, beloved masters, better than, richer than, smarter than, more beautiful than, leaves such a fragile stance. It puts those who live by those standards on a pedestal, and pedestals are very unsteady, unstable places. They may stand above the crowd, but they can be toppled so quickly. When you stand worthy in your own foundation of who you really are, the necessity for proof begins to melt away. And in these times, beloved masters, the more you remember your connection to the more so many elements of the illusion that never really functioned appropriately are beginning to dissolve, disintegrate, disappear, as they are embraced by Spirit, transmuted, transformed, often leading to transcendency. But the energy of the things that have been holding you back for so long is being changed. It's being purified. It's being returned to its natural state of neutrality, because power functions on your command, your intention, your dedication, your imagination, your faith, your trust, and your love. And the ego says it's just disgusting, it's all so sweet. No. It is, beloved masters, in the light there is some darkness, in the darkness there is some light. There is enough to balance. But the balance is never perfect. The scales don't move. The balance is always shifting a bit. So there's movement. And that's where choice is so powerful, because your choices, your intentions in those choices, will you allow yourself to succeed, or will you focus on failure? Will you allow yourself to be loved, or will you cling to, I have to do my life by myself, and I cannot let anyone in, or they will deter me from my goals? Your choices determine how that balance functions. And we are holding a powerful intention in the madness and the chaos of the end of an age. But not only the end of an age, the end of an order. Because the Aquarian age is almost fully in place. The Piscean age is almost past. And the illusion is breaking apart. And a new order that is filled up and founded on love without a condition, on the wisdom that you were granted when you were created, on the reconnection with the ancient magic, with the recognition of a more that is ever expanding. And your choices influence your balance in all of that. And your choices influence the whole. It isn't pretending to do good. It isn't trying to do good. It isn't about making other people live the way you think they should, because that's got to be better than what they're doing. It is about the acceptance that you are indeed a master magician, a divine creator, co-creating with all that is. And the more is ever present and available. Will you allow yourself permission to be comfortable with a life that provides plenty? Or will you maintain fighting for the crumbs under God's table rather than daring to take a seat and dine well? Will you war to get love and drive people away because you're trying so hard to get love that you won't let it in? Do you want to be well? But you make conflict with all of the old limitations. And letting go, beloved masters, yes, that can be very challenging. It takes great courage to change. And timing is everything. Being open to that timing, not trying to control it, but being open to it. How much God will you allow in your life? How much love? How much peace? How much joy? How willing are you to release critical judgment, which is a negative key? It locks the door of more, rather than opening the way for you to move in. So, dearly beloved masters, to go to that place where we started this, within your center, into your own world, your own universe, to become familiar, comfortable, aligned with all that you truly are, that you will live your own more. And accept the beneficent essence of God, delighted that you are allowing the gifts, the benefits that were granted when you were created, and how long you have held them away in disbelief. And there is great joy and celebration when any began to accept the more. Until we meet again, in whatever manner that may be, in the greatest of love, we journey with you to celebrate your acceptance, allowance, and experience of living the more. In love.